Blake the Eccentric here, and I wanted to shoot a quick YouTube video about, what's next with the whole Benghazi scandal. I mean, now for the last week or so, we've seen this whole McCain versus Susan Rice, and this has been a big distraction, and I think it's really time for us to move forward. And in fact, I was even watching the Rachel Maddow show this last week, and she even had a segment called "This is Getting Ridiculous." And you know what? I couldn't agree more. So just taking a few highlights from her segment, she's even saying, John McCain is a man with many, many questions, and he went on Fox News recently, naturally, to continue to advance his theory of a massive White House cover-up of the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. Senator McCain has been advancing this cover-up theory for weeks now, demanding answers like, who changed Susan Rice's talking points? And Rachel fired back and said, you know what, Senator McCain, that is a question we have the answer to. The intelligence agencies acknowledged last week that they were the ones who changed the talking points. Duh. Senator McCain, you know that. And we know you know that. And, but to be fair to John McCain here, I'm kind of looking at it. The question was, Rachel, who changed the talking points? Does who refer to the intelligence agencies? Does that really narrow it down? Yeah, it's someone in there. That's why it's called who, as in a person, as in, I don't know, maybe David Petraeus or Leon Panetta or Hillary Clinton or just, John Anderson who works over at the CIA somewhere. So clearly you're treating your audience like complete idiots. So, but moving on, there's some good points here. Another highlight was McCain was talking about this whole, with the Osama bin Laden raid, we knew within hours of the attack, everything that happened, even though they changed their story several times, but that's another topic. But he says the whole Benghazi thing, it's been 10 weeks and we still don't have any answers. And Rachel brings up a good point. We planned the Osama bin Laden raid, so of course we knew what was going on. But the Benghazi thing, we didn't plan it, so we didn't know what was going on, right? Or, there's conflicting reports here because, these other reports are saying that there was actually a live feed of everything going on in Benghazi, and that was actually went on for 7 hours. So it looks like they were fully aware of what was going on. So supposedly, 2 drones, live feed to 15 different headquarters, including the White House Situation Room. So, there's a telephone to the State Department, military secured channel to the CIA. Everybody was watching, including there was a CIA annex about 1.5 miles away that wanted to perform a rescue. And guess what? They were ordered to stand down, including everybody else that was in the area that could have performed a rescue operation. But despite those orders, these guys over at the CIA annex risked their lives and their careers to perform a rescue. So, and you can also look towards October 24th, which is a very significant day because that's the day when all these emails leaked out, piecing together a timeline for the first time and showing that the intelligence agencies all knew exactly what was going on within at least a couple of hours. So, with all this information flowing around and all these intelligence agencies, obviously there's a lot of questions to be asked. So, other significant thing about that is there was never any mention over about a YouTube video. So, what happens? You're like, wow, all this crazy stuff is going on, and I want to tune into the Rachel Maddow show so I can get informed on what's going on. And guess what? You tuned in that day, and I did. It was October 24th. And you know how many times she mentions the word Benghazi? 0 times. Yes, you can actually look at the transcript. It's like it never existed. That nothing happened, nothing to see here. And instead, her entire show was all about Richard Murdoch and Mitt Romney and Roe versus Wade, rape pregnancy, and she even had 2 guests on that day. And guess what they talked about? No, not Benghazi. It was all about abortion-related issues. So really, is Richard Murdoch and Roe versus Wade more important than the giant scandal going on in Benghazi? So, now later in this recent segment, Rachel Maddow talks about a conspiracy theory of her own, and I actually got to give her kudos. It's pretty good. And that's saying that this whole John McCain, Susan Rice thing is, it's just a distraction because they're trying to get another seat in the Senate. So if Susan Rice doesn't get the nomination, the next most likely candidate would be John Kerry. Now, John Kerry, of course, is a Democratic senator. He would have to give up his seat, and then that seat would be open to presumably Scott Brown, Republican, who recently lost to Elizabeth Warren. So yeah, you can see a Republican senator trying to get another Republican senator in there, and that's his whole motivation for this whole Susan Rice. And I totally agree with it. And I could really care less about old man John McCain or the old queen he hangs out with. So moving on, you could say, what about the other Rice? What about Condoleezza Rice from a few years ago? She got up on all the talk shows and talked about, WMDs, and, next thing you know, we're in this horrible war and there's 1 million dead Iraqis, and those are totally fair points, and I'm 100% behind them. This is not a right versus left issue. This is a right versus wrong issue, and then corruption is on both sides. So as far as I'm concerned, we can bring up Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld and put them all on trial for war crimes for all I care. So, but we still have to address the corruption going on with this administration, and we have to take a look at this scandal. So, Rachel finishes off her segment with, there are legit questions to ask about what happened during the attack on our consulate in Libya. What led up to the attack, right? Those questions deserve answers, and they are being investigated. Really? Well, let me ask you a few questions, because I didn't really see any interesting questions on your show, Rachel. Like, why was the consulate denied requests for additional security for months? Who ordered the stand down for a rescue? Or, did General Petraeus really resign over an affair? Or was it to get out of testifying? Oh yeah, but he did end up having to testify. But then it was, why did he have to meet behind closed doors? And forget Susan Rice. Why did Hillary have to leave her position to begin with? Why did Hillary and Leon Panetta suddenly have to leave the country and not be able to testify? How convenient. I'm sure there's nothing to hide, though. So, whether Rice is at fault for the information is not the real question here. It's just the latest distraction. But what we did learn is that through this saga, we did learn that the whole YouTube video was fabricated. It had nothing to do with anything. We don't know where it came from. But, and of course, Susan Rice might not have the clearance to know such things anyway, right? But you would think that at least, the president would, right? And he would know from the get-go that this had nothing to do with a YouTube video. So let's get to another real question. So, after the whole Susan Rice debacle, that was on September 16th, we go 9 days later. President Obama gets in front of the United Nations and tells the whole world all about this YouTube video. And in fact, I can even pull up a couple of highlights from the transcript. Here's Obama. If we are serious about these ideals, we must speak honestly about the deeper causes of the crisis. And moving forward, and that is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks, where a crude and disgusting video sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world. Now, I have made it clear that the United States had nothing to do with this video, and I believe its message must be rejected by all who respect our common humanity. It is an insult to not only Muslims, but to America as well. So, critical thinking time. Am I really crazy to think that there's a major cover-up going on? Or is Rachel Maddow keeping her audience in the dark for a political agenda and actually maybe even a part of the cover-up herself? So, obviously she's a smart lady, so how come I have to point out these easy questions? So is Maddow compromised in order to avoid real questions to protect the presidency and avoid the next Watergate? I mean, obviously this would have been pretty embarrassing for the administration so close in front of the election, right? So, you know, maybe she doesn't want to lose her job. I mean, MSNBC seems to have a good track record of getting rid of people who ask questions or get a little too uppity. You know, Donahue, you know, Pat Buchanan, Keith Olbermann, Sink of the Young Turks, Dylan Ratigan, Jesse Ventura. You know, and I thought the news was supposed to be about trust. You know, I thought the news was, you know, the media was supposed to protect the people from corruption. Or in this case, are they there to protect the state and keep people in the dark? You know, the liberal media cannot be allowed to get away with this, or we set a very dangerous precedent. Because if they can get away with a giant scandal like this, what will they try to get away with next? You know, I mean, do you guys work for the people? Are you really trying to inform us? Or are you feeding us establishment propaganda? So to the liberal media, you know, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Politico, or one of my personal favorites, one of the sorriest excuses of journalism of all, Think Progress. You know, what's the next big distraction? You know, what could be the, you know, this is one of the greatest scandals and cover-ups in American history, and I'm curious what the next distraction is going to be. Because first it was, you know, pretend Benghazi doesn't exist, and, you know, let's talk about rape pregnancy. And then, of course, secondly, let's talk about, then we had Hurricane Sandy and the election. You know, obviously that was a different kind of distraction. But third, as soon as the election was over and Hurricane Sandy, that part was over, you know, that's when they finally got to the big scandal. Oh, no, not the one about the big cover-up going on in Benghazi where people died and then the administration blamed it on a YouTube video. No. It was all about General Petraeus and Paula Broadwell and the big sex scandal, which, you know, makes interesting tabloid fodder, but I still don't think is addressing the real questions. So when are you going to ask these said real questions? And, you know, if not, I'm curious. So what's the next great distraction? You know, I'll be looking forward to watching. Peace and love.